The rain was coming down so hard that Lisa could barely see 3 feet in front of her. She ran through the hospital parking lot, her jacket pulled over her baby's head to keep him dry. Her 6-month-old son, Danny, was pressed against her chest, and she could feel him squirming under the wet fabric. Just a little longer. "Baby," she whispered, her teeth chattering from the cold. Her phone had died 20 minutes ago, right after she confirmed her rideshare pickup. The driver was supposed to be waiting in a black car near the main entrance. Lisa's sneakers splashed through puddles as she scanned the parking area, desperate to find her ride. Then she saw it. A sleek black car with the back door slightly open, exactly where it should be. Thank God Lisa didn't hesitate. She yanked the door open wider and practically fell into the back seat, pulling Danny onto her lap. The warmth inside the car felt like heaven. She let out a long breath and started adjusting Danny's wet blanket with shaking fingers. "I'm so sorry I took so long," she said breathlessly, not looking up. "The doctor's appointment ran over and then I couldn't find the exit and the rain just made everything worse." There was a pause. Then a man's voice came from the front seat, deep and confused. "I think you've got the wrong car." Lisa's head snapped up. The man turning around to look at her was definitely not her rideshare driver. He was younger than she expected, maybe in his mid-30s. His hair was perfectly styled even in this weather, and his suit looked like it cost more than everything she owned. His dark eyes showed surprise but not anger. Not yet anyway. "Oh my God," Lisa stammered, her face going hot despite the cold. "I'm so sorry. I thought you were my ride. The app said a black car right here and I didn't look, She tried to gather her things to leave, but Danny picked that exact moment to start crying. Not just fussing, but the full-blown wail that meant he was tired, hungry, and done with everything. Her diaper bag slipped off her shoulder, and half its contents spilled across the pristine car floor. Bottles, diapers, and baby wipes scattered everywhere. "No, no, no," Lisa muttered, trying to pick everything up with one hand while bouncing Danny with the other. Her movements were clumsy and frantic. She felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. "Stop," the man said, but not unkindly. "Just stop for a second." Lisa froze, expecting him to yell at her or kick her out. Instead, he was looking at her with concern. "When did you last eat?" he asked. The question caught her so off guard that she answered honestly. "Breakfast, I think. Maybe yesterday's dinner." "You think?" His eyebrows went up. "I've been busy," Lisa said defensively, though her voice came out weak. "Danny had his appointment, and I had to take 2 buses to get here because my car broke down last week, and I haven't had time to—" The world tilted sideways. Lisa felt the car spin around her, and her vision got dark at the edges. She heard Danny crying somewhere far away, heard the man's alarmed voice, felt strong hands catching her before she hit something hard. Then everything went black. When Lisa opened her eyes, she wasn't in the car anymore. She was lying on a soft leather couch in what looked like an expensive office. The walls were glass, showing the city lights below. For a confused moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then panic hit her like ice water. "Danny!" She tried to sit up too fast and immediately felt dizzy again. "He's right here," a woman's voice said calmly. "Your baby is fine." Lisa turned her head and saw Danny sleeping peacefully on a nearby chair, nestled in what looked like expensive suit jackets folded into a makeshift bed. A professional-looking woman in her 40s sat beside him, keeping watch. "I'm Lisa Cheng." The woman introduced herself with a small smile. "I'm Mr. Harrison's executive assistant. You fainted in his car, so he had his driver bring you here. This was closer than the hospital, and you were already coming around." "I fainted?" Lisa's voice cracked. The embarrassment was overwhelming. "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I need to go. I've caused enough trouble." "You're not going anywhere yet," a familiar deep voice said from the doorway. The man from the car walked in carrying a tray. On it was a bowl of soup, some crackers, orange juice, and a bottle of water. He set it down on the coffee table in front of her. "You fainted because your blood sugar crashed," he said matter-of-factly, "probably from not eating and exhaustion. So eat this before you try to stand up." Lisa wanted to argue, but her stomach growled so loudly that both of them heard it. Her cheeks burned red. "I'm David Harrison," the man said, sitting down in a chair across from her. "And you are?" "Lisa Martinez," she replied quietly, picking up the soup with trembling hands. "And I really am sorry about your car. I'll pay for cleaning it. I just need a few weeks to—" "Don't worry about the car," he interrupted. "Just eat." The soup was the best thing Lisa had tasted in months. She tried not to gulp it down too fast, but she was starving, As she ate, she became more aware of her surroundings. This wasn't just any office. This was the kind of office that belonged to someone important. The furniture alone probably cost more than her yearly rent. David was on his phone now, speaking in a crisp, authoritative tone. She caught phrases like cancel the evening meeting and reschedule for tomorrow morning. He was clearly someone used to being in charge. Lisa finished eating and felt a little more human. Thank you for this, Mr. Harrison, and for not being angry about me invading your car. Why would I be angry? He looked genuinely puzzled. You made an honest mistake. Not everyone would see it that way. He was quiet for a moment, then changed the subject. The rideshare you were trying to catch, where were you heading? Home. I live about 40 minutes from here by bus. Lisa glanced at the window, seeing it was now fully dark outside. I should really get going. I've taken up enough of your time. It's dark, still raining, and you have an infant, David said flatly. You're not taking a bus. My driver will take you home. That's really not necessary. It wasn't a question. Despite his firm tone, there was kindness in his eyes. Lisa noticed something else too. When Danny stirred and made a small sound, David's whole expression changed. He looked at her baby with something that seemed almost like pain mixed with longing. May I? David asked, gesturing toward Danny. Lisa was surprised but nodded. She watched as this powerful businessman carefully picked up her son. He held Danny with unexpected skill, supporting his head properly, rocking him gently when he fussed. It was clear this wasn't his first time holding a baby. I had a son, David said quietly. More to Danny than to her. He would have been about this age now. The past tense hit Lisa like a punch. I'm so sorry, she whispered. David cleared his throat and handed Danny back to her, the vulnerable moment passing. He pulled out his wallet and took out a business card and several bills. My driver is ready downstairs. And take this. Consider it compensation for the confusion with the car situation. Lisa looked at the money. It was more than she made in 2 weeks of waitressing. Her pride wanted to refuse it, but she thought about the overdue electric bill sitting on her kitchen counter. About the fact that Danny needed new clothes because he was growing so fast. About her own nearly empty wallet. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. You've been incredibly kind. During the drive to her apartment across town, David stayed quiet in the front seat. Lisa watched the city pass by through the window, Danny sleeping in her arms. She lived in a neighborhood that was safe but worn down. When they pulled up to her building, she saw David take it in without comment. He got out and opened her door, helping her gather her things. Here, he said, handing her his business card. If you ever need anything, call that number. I mean it, Lisa looked at the card. David Harrison, CEO, Harrison Industries. Her eyes widened. She'd heard of Harrison Industries. Everyone had. They were one of the biggest tech companies in the state. I don't know what to say, she managed. Say you'll take care of yourself, David replied. For your son's sake. As his car drove away, Lisa stood on the sidewalk in the drizzling rain, holding Danny close. She looked at the business card in her hand and felt like she'd just experienced something impossible. A CEO who showed her kindness instead of calling security, who fed her and made sure she got home safe, who looked at her son with understanding instead of annoyance. She tucked the card carefully into her purse, never imagining that this strange, rainy evening was just the beginning of something that would change her life forever. 3 weeks had passed since that rainy night, and Lisa was trying to forget about it. Well, not forget exactly, but move on. She'd used the money David had given her to pay her electric bill and buy Danny some new clothes. The business card sat in her wallet, but she had no intention of calling. People like David Harrison didn't really mean it when they said, call if you need anything. That was just something rich people said to make themselves feel better. Tonight, Lisa was working her evening shift at the Garden Room, an upscale restaurant in the financial district. She'd been waitressing here for almost a year. The tips were good and she needed every penny. Between this job and her morning shift at a coffee shop, she was barely keeping her head above water. But she was managing, barely. She was carrying 3 plates of expensive pasta when she heard a voice that made her freeze mid-step. Table for 4, please. Lisa's heart sank. She knew that voice. She turned her head slightly and there he was. David Harrison, standing at the host station with 3 other people in business suits. They were clearly here for a work dinner. The host, Miguel, was already leading them to a table, Please don't let it be my section, Lisa thought desperately. Please, please, please. Of course it was her section. She took a deep breath, dropped off the pasta at table 7, and walked over to David's table with her notepad ready. Maybe he wouldn't recognize her. It had been 3 weeks, and she looked different in her work uniform with her hair pulled back. "Good evening," she said in her professional server voice. "Can I start you folks with some drinks?" David looked up from his menu and his eyes widened. "Lisa? So much for not being recognized." "Hello, Mr. Harrison," she said, feeling her cheeks get hot. The 3 other people at the table were now looking at her with curiosity. "What can I get you to drink?" "You work here?" David's surprise was obvious. "Yes, sir." "Now drinks?" She kept her voice polite but cool. She didn't want his pity or his questions, especially not in front of his colleagues. He seemed to understand and ordered a whiskey. The others ordered wine. Lisa wrote everything down and escaped to the bar, her hands shaking slightly. Of all the restaurants in this city, he had to come to hers. The rest of the dinner service was torture. Lisa was hyper-aware of David's table the whole time. She felt his eyes on her as she moved through her section, serving other customers, refilling water glasses, clearing plates. She was good at her job and usually confident. But tonight she felt clumsy under his gaze. She overheard bits of their conversation. They were discussing some kind of business merger. The other 3 people were executives from another company. This was clearly an important meeting. Then things got worse. Lisa was bringing their entrees when one of the men at David's table, a heavy-set guy with a loud voice, snapped his fingers at her. Actually snapped his fingers like she was a dog. "Hey, sweetheart. I ordered my steak medium rare." "This is medium well." "Take it back." Lisa looked at the steak. It was perfectly medium rare. "Sir, that appears to be—" "Are you arguing with me?" The man's voice got louder. "I know what medium rare looks like. Take it back and tell the kitchen to do it right this time." Lisa saw other diners starting to stare. She glanced at David, who was watching the interaction with a tight jaw and narrowed eyes. But she couldn't let him fight her battles, especially not in front of his business associates. "Of course, sir. I'll have the kitchen prepare you a new one right away." She took the plate with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. In the kitchen, the head chef, Tony, looked at the steak and shook his head. "That's perfect medium rare." "That guy's just being difficult." "I know," Lisa sighed. "But the customer is always right, remember?" "The customer is an idiot," Tony muttered. But he started preparing a new steak anyway. When Lisa brought the new steak out 15 minutes later, the loud man barely looked at it before cutting into it. "This is too rare now, forget it." "Just take it off the bill." Lisa wanted to scream. Instead, she smiled. "Of course, sir." The dinner finally ended 2 hours later. Lisa brought the check and David added a note on the receipt. "Please wait after your shift. I need to talk to you. I'll be outside." Lisa's first thought was to ignore it. But something made her curious. Or maybe she was just too tired to fight anymore. Her shift ended at 10. She cleaned up her section, changed out of her uniform, and found David waiting by his car in the parking lot. The rain had stopped, but the air was still damp and cold. "Get in," he said. "Just to talk." 5 minutes. Lisa hesitated, then got in the passenger seat. The car smelled like leather and expensive cologne. It reminded her of that night 3 weeks ago. "What do you want to talk about?" she asked, trying to sound casual. David turned to face her. "How many jobs do you have?" "That's none of your business." "Lisa." His voice was gentle but firm. "How many?" She looked out the window. 2. I work mornings at a coffee shop and evenings here. 4 days a week at each place. And Danny? Daycare during the day. My neighbor watches him at night for cheap." She turned back to him. "Why do you care?" "Because 3 weeks ago you fainted in my car from exhaustion and hunger. And tonight, I watched you work for 2 hours straight without a break, getting treated poorly by people who should know better. That's not sustainable, Lisa. You're running yourself into the ground." "I'm doing what I have to do," Lisa said, her voice rising. "Not all of us have the luxury of choosing easy paths. I have a son to feed and a roof to keep over our heads. So yes, I work hard. That's what single mothers do." "I'm not criticizing you," David said quietly. "I'm worried about you." "Why?" The question came out almost as a challenge. "You don't even know me. We met once by accident. Why do you care what happens to me?" David was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw with emotion. "A year ago, my wife died giving birth to our son. There were complications. It happened so fast that the doctors couldn't save them. I lost them both in the same night. He paused, and Lisa could see the pain in his eyes even in the dim light. For months I couldn't function. I went to work, went through the motions, but I was empty inside. "I'm so sorry," Lisa whispered. "When you got into my car that night with Danny, something shifted. You reminded me that life goes on, that there are still people fighting, struggling, surviving. You brought something back that I thought I'd lost forever." He looked directly at her. "So that's why I care. Because you and Danny reminded me how to feel again." Lisa didn't know what to say. The vulnerability in his voice made her throat tight. "I want to offer you something," David continued, his tone becoming more businesslike, as if he needed to step back from the emotion. "My company has positions opening in our administration department. Better pay than what you're making now. Health insurance, regular hours, and we have an on-site childcare facility for employees. Danny would be taken care of while you work." "I can't accept charity," Lisa said immediately. "It's not charity. You'd be an employee like anyone else. You'd work for your salary. But you'd also have stability, a future for Danny, time to actually breathe." He pulled out his phone and showed her the job listing. "Look at the requirements. You're qualified. This isn't favoritism. It's an opportunity." Lisa looked at the screen. The salary was almost double what she made from both her current jobs combined. The benefits package included health insurance, dental, vision, and paid time off, things she'd only dreamed about. "Think about it," David said. "You don't have to decide right now, but think about what kind of life you want for Danny, and for yourself." "Why are you really doing this?" Lisa asked. "The truth," David met her eyes. "Because I couldn't save my wife and son, but maybe I can help you. Maybe that's how I make sense of what happened, by making sure other people don't have to struggle alone." Lisa felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. "What if people think I got the job because of this? Because you feel sorry for me? Do you care what people think? Or do you care about giving your son a better life?" It was a fair question. Lisa thought about Danny's face, his laugh, the way he reached for her when she picked him up from daycare. She thought about the nights she went to bed hungry so he could have enough formula, about the constant worry that she'd get sick and lose a shift and not make rent. "Can I really do this?" she asked, her voice small. "Can I really change everything?" "You already did," David said. "The hard part was surviving this long on your own. Taking a better opportunity isn't giving up. It's being smart." Lisa looked at the job listing again. She thought about having one job instead of two. About eating regular meals, about health insurance for Danny, about not being so tired all the time that she could barely see straight. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll apply for the position." David smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "Send in your application tomorrow. The interview process is standard, but I think you'll do great." As Lisa got out of the car, David called after her. "Lisa, you're stronger than you know. Don't forget that." She walked to her own car, her mind spinning. Everything could change. Her whole life could be different. As she drove home to her tiny apartment where Danny was sleeping with the neighbor, Lisa allowed herself something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. 6 months had changed everything. Lisa still had to pinch herself sometimes when she walked into Harrison Industries each morning. The building was all glass and steel, modern and impressive. Her office was small but bright, with a window that looked out over the city. She had her own desk, her own computer, and business cards with her name on them. But the best part was the childcare center on the 3rd floor. Every lunch break, Lisa would go down and visit Danny. She'd feed him, play with him, and sometimes just hold him while he napped. She never imagined she could be this close to her son while working. It felt like a dream. The job itself was good too. She worked in the administrative department, coordinating schedules and managing communications. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Her coworkers were mostly friendly, and for the first time in years, Lisa wasn't constantly worried about money. She'd moved to a better apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was clean, safe, and in a good neighborhood. Danny had his own room now, painted light blue with clouds on the ceiling. Lisa had cried the first night they slept there. David had kept his distance professionally, which she appreciated. But they'd developed something unexpected. A friendship. He'd stop by her desk sometimes to ask about Danny, and they'd end up talking about books or movies or random things. Once a week, they'd have coffee in the break room, just chatting like normal people. Lisa had started to feel comfortable, safe even. Then the whispers started. At first it was just looks, people glancing at her when she walked by, then quickly looking away. Then came the hushed conversations that stopped when she entered a room. Lisa tried to ignore it, but the whispers grew louder. One day she was getting coffee in the break room when two women from accounting walked in. They didn't see her standing by the window. "I'm just saying it's suspicious," one of them said. "She shows up out of nowhere and suddenly has this cushy position. And she's always having coffee with Mr. Harrison," the other added. "Did you see them yesterday?" They were laughing about something. It looked pretty cozy. She probably planned the whole thing, gets in his car with a baby, plays the struggling single mother card, and boom, she's got him wrapped around her finger. It's disgusting, honestly, using her kid like that to manipulate him. And poor Mr. Harrison after everything he's been through with losing his wife and baby. Lisa's hand shook so badly she almost dropped her coffee mug. She set it down carefully and walked out through the other door. She didn't want them to know she'd heard, but the words burned in her mind for the rest of the day. That evening there was a company gala, one of those fancy events where everyone dressed up and pretended to enjoy small talk. Lisa almost didn't go, but her manager had mentioned that attendance was strongly encouraged, so she bought a simple black dress from a discount store and showed up. The venue was beautiful, a hotel ballroom with chandeliers and soft music. Everyone looked elegant in expensive suits and designer dresses. Lisa felt out of place immediately. She got a glass of water from the bar and stood near the wall, trying to look occupied. She watched David across the room, surrounded by important-looking people. He was in his element here, confident and commanding. She wondered if coming had been a mistake. Then she heard the voices behind her. A group of employees she didn't know well, speaking just loud enough for her to hear. "That's her, the one who got pregnant and trapped the boss. I heard she fainted in his car on purpose. Very convenient timing, right? And now she's got the job, the benefits, everything. Must be nice to sleep your way to the top. She's using that poor baby as a pawn. It's shameful." Lisa felt like she'd been slapped. Her vision blurred with tears, but she refused to cry here. Not in front of these people. She set down her glass and headed for the exit. She almost made it. "Lisa." David's voice stopped her at the door. She turned to see him walking toward her, concern written all over his face. "I was just leaving," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I have to get back to Danny." "Not yet." He reached her side and lowered his voice. "I heard what they said. The people by the window. It doesn't matter." "It does matter." His jaw was tight with anger. Not at her, she realized, for her. "Dance with me." "What?" "Dance with me," he repeated, holding out his hand. Please, Lisa wanted to refuse. Wanted to run out the door and never come back. But something in his eyes made her take his hand. He led her to the dance floor. The music was slow and soft. As they started moving, Lisa became aware of every eye in the room watching them. The whispers would only get worse after this, but David's hand was steady on her back, grounding her. "They think I'm using you," Lisa said quietly. "They think I got pregnant on purpose to trap you. That I'm using Danny to manipulate you into giving me things. I heard. And this," she gestured around them. "Dancing with you at a company event is only going to make it worse." "I don't care what they think," David said firmly. "I know who you are, Lisa. I know you never asked me for anything. I know you tried to refuse help every step of the way. I know you work harder than half the people in this room. And I know you're one of the most honest, genuine people I've ever met. But they don't know that. They just see a single mother who got lucky, who took advantage of a grieving man." David stopped dancing and looked directly at her. "You want to know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who survived impossible circumstances, who raised a child alone while working 2 jobs, who fainted from exhaustion but still tried to apologize for it, who took a job opportunity and proved every single day that she deserved it. David, I'm not finished." His voice was intense now. "For a year after my wife died, I was empty. I went through the motions but felt nothing. Then you stumbled into my car in the rain with your baby and something changed. You reminded me that life still matters, that people still struggle and fight and survive. You gave me something to care about again." Lisa's breath caught in her throat. Around them the music played on, but it felt like they were in their own bubble. "The truth is," David continued, his voice softer now, "you've become one of the most important people in my life. You and Danny. And I don't care if people gossip or make assumptions. I know what's real. Before Lisa could respond, someone cleared their throat loudly behind David. They both turned to see an elegant older woman standing there. She was tall, with perfectly styled silver hair and cold blue eyes. Everything about her screamed wealth and authority. "David," the woman said, her voice icy. "We need to talk now." David's expression hardened. "Mother! I didn't know you were coming tonight." His mother. Lisa felt her stomach drop. "Clearly," the woman said, her gaze sliding to Lisa with barely concealed disdain. "I see you've been busy making a spectacle of yourself." "This is Lisa Martinez," David said, his tone warning. "She works in our administration department." "Lisa, this is my mother, Catherine Harrison." "How nice," Catherine said in a tone that suggested it was anything but. She looked Lisa up and down, taking in her discount store dress and simple shoes. "David, we need to discuss something privately. Family business. Whatever you need to say, you can say in front of Lisa." Catherine's smile was thin and sharp. "Very well. I've been hearing disturbing rumors about your relationship with this woman, about how she conveniently appeared in your life with a child right when you were vulnerable, about the special treatment she's received." "Those are lies," David said flatly. "Are they? Because it looks to me like a classic case of manipulation, a struggling woman taking advantage of a wealthy man's grief." Catherine turned her cold eyes on Lisa. "How much money have you taken from my son?" "I haven't taken anything," Lisa said, finding her voice despite her shaking hands. "I work for what I earn." "Of course you do," Catherine said with false sweetness. "And I'm sure the job, the benefits, and my son's attention are all just coincidences." "Mother, that's enough," David said, his voice hard. "No, it isn't enough. Not when I see you throwing away your future on someone so obviously beneath you." Catherine pulled an envelope from her purse and held it out to Lisa. "I'm giving you a choice. Take what's inside and leave. Leave the company, leave this city, and leave my son alone. Or refuse, and I will make sure you never work anywhere respectable again. I will destroy your reputation so thoroughly that you'll be lucky to get a job cleaning toilets." Lisa stared at the envelope, feeling like the floor was falling away beneath her feet. Around them, people were starting to notice the confrontation. The whispers were getting louder. "Take it," Catherine said, her voice low and threatening. "This is the only offer you'll get. Take the money and disappear. Or face the consequences." Lisa looked at David, whose face was pale with fury and something else. Fear. Not for himself, but for her. She looked at the envelope in Catherine's hand. Then she looked at all the people watching, waiting to see what she would do. And in that moment, Lisa had to make the hardest decision of her life. Lisa stared at the envelope in Catherine Harrison's perfectly manicured hand. The entire ballroom seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what she would do. Every whisper, every judgment, every cruel assumption hung in the air between them. She could take the money. Take Danny and start over somewhere else. Disappear like Catherine wanted. It would be easier, safer. But then she thought about the past 6 months. The mornings dropping Danny off at daycare and knowing he was safe and happy. The lunch breaks spent holding him, reading him stories. The nights in their new apartment where she didn't have to choose between feeding him or paying rent. The dignity of earning her own way. Lisa reached out, but not for the envelope. Instead, she took David's hand. "No," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm not taking your money, Mrs. Harrison, and I'm not leaving." Catherine's eyes flashed with cold fury. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe," Lisa said. "But it's my mistake to make. I came to this city with nothing but my son and a determination to survive. I worked 2 jobs, went hungry so Danny could eat, and never once asked anyone for a handout. When Mr. Harrison offered me a job, I earned my place here. Every single day I proved that I belong." She looked around at all the watching faces. Some looked uncomfortable now, others curious. She saw the 2 women from accounting, the ones who'd called her disgusting, looking away in shame. "You all want to know the truth?" Lisa's voice carried across the room. "Fine, here it is. I did get into Mr. Harrison's car by mistake. I was desperate, exhausted, and trying to get home to my baby. I fainted because I hadn't eaten in 2 days. Not because I was trying to trap anyone. Not because I was playing some game. Because I was a single mother doing everything I could to survive." Her voice got stronger. "Mr. Harrison showed me kindness when he didn't have to. He gave me a chance when no one else would. But I did the rest. I showed up every day. I worked hard. I proved myself. And if you think I'm going to let anyone take that away from me, you don't know who you're dealing with." The room was completely silent now. Catherine's face was like stone. "David, are you going to let her speak to me this way?" "Yes," David said simply. His hand tightened around Lisa's. "Because she's right. About all of it." He turned to face his mother fully. "You want to talk about manipulation? Let's talk about it. After Rebecca and our son died, I was barely functioning. For months, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't feel anything. You kept pushing me to move on, to date women you approved of, to act like nothing had happened." Catherine's expression flickered. "I was trying to help you heal." "You were trying to control me," David said, his voice pained but firm. "You couldn't handle seeing me grieve, so you wanted me to pretend. But Lisa never asked me to pretend. She let me talk about Rebecca. She understood loss without trying to fix it. She and Danny reminded me that life goes on, but not by erasing the past, by making room for new connections while honoring what came before." He looked at Lisa, and his eyes were full of emotion. "I should have said this sooner, in front of everyone, so there's no confusion. I'm falling in love with you, Lisa. Actually, I think I've been falling for months. Your strength, your honesty, the way you love Danny with your whole heart. You've brought light back into my life, and I'm not letting you go." Lisa's eyes filled with tears. Around them she heard gasps and whispers, but different ones now, softer, some almost approving. "David," she whispered, "I love you too. But your mother is right about one thing. People will always question my motives. They'll always say I trapped you or used Danny or played some game. Can you live with that? Can you?" He countered. Lisa thought about it, really thought about it. "As long as I know the truth, as long as Danny knows he's loved, and as long as I can look at myself in the mirror." "Yes, I can live with it." David smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his face. "Then that's all that matters." "This is ridiculous," Catherine said sharply. "David, you're throwing away your reputation. You're standing in this company for what? A woman you barely know?" "I know her better than you think, Mother. And my reputation will survive. As for the company, I built it. I decide what matters here." "And what about the board? Your investors? They won't approve of this relationship." "Then they can leave," David said flatly. "I'm not asking for permission to care about someone." Catherine looked between them, her composure cracking for the first time. "I'm trying to protect you. After losing Rebecca and the baby, I can't bear to see you hurt again." David's expression softened slightly. "I know, Mom, but you're not protecting me. You're suffocating me, and you're hurting Lisa in the process. She doesn't deserve that. She's using your grief." "No," David interrupted. "She's helping me heal from it." "There's a difference." Catherine stood there for a long moment, her perfect facade finally showing cracks. Lisa saw something in the older woman's eyes that looked almost like fear. Not of Lisa herself, but of losing her son. "Mrs. Harrison," Lisa said quietly, "I'm not trying to replace anyone. I know David loved his wife. I know he'll always carry that loss. And I'm not asking him to forget or pretend it didn't happen. I just want to be part of his life moving forward. That's all." Catherine looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. "You're not what I expected, I know. I'm not wealthy or polished or from the right family, but I love your son, and I love the person he is, not what he has." Lisa took a breath. "I won't take your money and I won't disappear. But I'm also not trying to be your enemy. Danny deserves a family, and if you'd give me a chance, maybe we could figure out how to make this work." It wasn't an apology because Lisa had nothing to apologize for, but it was an olive branch. Catherine was quiet for a long time. The entire room watched and waited. Finally she spoke, her voice quieter than before. "I raised my son to be strong and independent, to make his own choices." She looked at David. "Even when those choices terrify me." "Mom," David said gently. "I'm not saying I approve," Catherine continued, "and I'm not saying this doesn't concern me. But you're right. I've been trying to control how you grieve, and that's not fair." She looked at Lisa again, her expression still guarded but less hostile. "I apologize for the things I said. They were cruel and unfair. It wasn't warm. It wasn't a full acceptance. But it was a start. Thank you," Lisa said simply. Catherine nodded once, then turned and walked away, her back straight and proud. But Lisa noticed her hand was shaking as she left. David let out a long breath. "Well, that went better than I expected." Lisa laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. "Better? Your mother just tried to pay me to leave town." But you didn't leave. You stood your ground. In front of everyone. He pulled her closer. You're incredible, you know that? Around them, people were starting to move again, the drama apparently over. Some were smiling at them now. Others were whispering, but the tone had changed. It wasn't all hostile anymore. Lisa's manager, Patricia, walked over with a warm smile. That took courage, Lisa. Good for you. Thank you, Lisa said, surprised. And for what it's worth, Patricia added, looking at David. We're lucky to have her in our department. She's one of our best workers. As Patricia walked away, more people approached. Not everyone was friendly, but enough were. Enough to make Lisa feel like maybe, just maybe, this could work. So what happens now? Lisa asked David. He smiled. Now we dance. Like we should have been doing all along without caring who's watching. They moved back onto the dance floor. This time Lisa didn't worry about the stares or the whispers. She just let herself feel the moment. David's hand on her back, the soft music, the knowledge that she'd stood up for herself and won. I meant what I said. David murmured in her ear. I love you. I know it's complicated and messy and people will talk, but I don't care. I love you too, Lisa whispered back. And you're right. It is messy, but maybe the best things usually are. As they danced, Lisa thought about the journey that had brought her here. From that rainy night when she stumbled into the wrong car, to this moment in a ballroom full of people who finally saw her as more than just a struggling single mother. She'd fought for her place here, for her dignity, for her son's future, and she'd won. But she also knew the real battle was just beginning. Because loving David Harrison meant entering a world that would constantly question her worth. And she'd have to keep proving herself every single day. The question was she ready for that fight? Looking up at David's face, seeing the love and respect in his eyes, Lisa knew the answer. Yes, she was ready. 2 years later, Lisa stood in the nursery of the home she now shared with David, watching the evening light filter through the curtains. The room was painted a soft yellow with hand-painted butterflies on one wall. It was bigger than her entire old apartment had been. She heard footsteps behind her and smiled as David's arms wrapped around her waist, his hands resting on her very pregnant belly. He's finally asleep, David whispered, referring to Danny, who was now 2.5 and full of endless energy. Good, Lisa said, leaning back against him. He fought bedtime hard tonight. He wanted 3 more stories. I couldn't say no. David's voice was full of warmth. He's got me wrapped around his little finger. Lisa laughed softly. He's got both of us wrapped around his finger. They stood there quietly for a moment, feeling their daughter kick inside Lisa's belly. They'd decided to name her Hope, because that's what she represented. A new beginning. A future they were building together. Life hadn't been easy after that night at the gala. The gossip had continued for months. Some people at Harrison Industries never fully accepted Lisa, convinced she was after David's money. But slowly, as time passed and Lisa kept proving herself through her work, most of the whispers faded. She'd even been promoted twice, both times on her own merit. The hardest part had been Catherine. David's mother had kept her distance at first, polite but cold whenever they crossed paths. She'd skip family dinners if Lisa was there. She'd send gifts for Danny but never visit. It had hurt David more than he'd admit, and Lisa had felt guilty for coming between them. But 3 months ago something had changed. Danny had gotten sick. Really sick. A respiratory infection that landed him in the hospital for 4 days. Lisa had been terrified, staying by his bedside day and night, barely eating or sleeping. David had been there too, holding her when she cried, talking to doctors, making sure Danny had the best care. On the second night, Catherine had shown up. Lisa had been surprised to see her walk into the hospital room, carrying a stuffed bear and looking uncomfortable but determined. I heard Danny was sick, Catherine had said quietly. I wanted to see how he's doing. That's kind of you, Lisa had replied, too exhausted to be anything but honest. He's stable now. The antibiotics are helping. Catherine had looked at Danny sleeping in the hospital bed, his little chest rising and falling with effort. Something in her expression had cracked. He's so small. He's strong, though, David had said, coming to stand beside his mother. He gets that from Lisa. Catherine had been quiet for a long moment. Then she'd done something unexpected. She'd pulled up a chair next to Lisa and sat down. When David was this age, he got pneumonia. Catherine had said softly. I thought I was going to lose him. I stayed in the hospital for 6 days straight. I know what you're feeling right now. Lisa had looked at her with new eyes. I didn't know that. There's a lot you don't know about me. Just as there's a lot I didn't know about you. Catherine had met her gaze. I judged you before I knew you. I was afraid of losing my son, and I took that fear out on you. That was wrong. It hadn't fixed everything, but it had been a start. Since then, Catherine had been making an effort. She'd invited them to Sunday dinners. She'd brought gifts for Danny and actually stayed to play with him. She'd even started giving Lisa parenting advice, which was sometimes annoying, but came from a place of genuine care. Just last week, Catherine had surprised them both by offering to throw Lisa a baby shower, a real one with family and friends, not just some obligation. Lisa had cried when she'd said yes. What are you thinking about? David asked now, pulling Lisa from her memories. Everything, Lisa said. How much has changed? How far we've come. Do you ever regret it? Getting into the wrong car that night? Lisa turned in his arms to face him. Never, not once. Even with all the drama and the gossip and the difficulty, I'd do it all again. Even the part where you fainted in front of a stranger? David teased. Especially that part. It got your attention, didn't it? He laughed and kissed her forehead. You would have gotten my attention anyway. You're impossible to ignore. They heard a sound from Danny's room, a small voice calling out, Mama, Daddy? David sighed. So much for finally asleep. They walked to Danny's room together. He was sitting up in his toddler bed holding his favorite stuffed elephant. What's wrong, buddy? David asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. I had a dream, Danny said. About the baby sister. Yeah? What kind of dream? Lisa asked, easing herself down into the rocking chair. She was here, and she was laughing, and Grandma Catherine was here too, and she was smiling. Danny looked at them with his big brown eyes. Is Grandma gonna love the baby? Lisa and David exchanged a look. It was a fair question. Danny had noticed the tension even if he couldn't fully understand it. Yes, Lisa said firmly. Grandma is going to love your sister very much, just like she loves you. And she loves you too, Mama, Danny added matter-of-factly. Lisa's throat got tight. What makes you say that? Because she told me. Last Sunday when you were in the kitchen, she said you're part of our family now, and family means love. He yawned. That's what she said. After they got Danny settled again, Lisa and David returned to the living room. Lisa was quiet, processing what Danny had shared. She said that to him? Lisa asked. Apparently. David pulled her close on the couch. My mother has her own way of doing things. She might never be warm and fuzzy, but she's trying. That's something. It's more than something, Lisa said. It's everything. She thought about the scared, desperate woman she'd been 2 years ago. Working 2 jobs, going hungry, terrified of losing her apartment. She'd gotten into that car in the rain thinking she was catching a rideshare home. She'd had no idea she was stumbling into a life she'd never imagined possible. Do you ever miss it? David asked quietly. Your old life. Being independent, not having to deal with complicated families and company politics. Lisa considered the question honestly. I miss the simplicity sometimes, when it was just me and Danny against the world. But I don't miss the fear, the constant worry, wondering if I'd make rent or if Danny would have enough to eat. She touched her belly, and I wouldn't trade this family for anything. The complicated, messy, imperfect family we're building. Even with my difficult mother, even with your difficult mother, Lisa confirmed. Because she's trying, and because she raised you and you're the best man I've ever known. David kissed her, slow and sweet. I love you, Lisa Martinez. Soon to be Lisa Harrison if you'd finally set a wedding date. They'd gotten engaged 4 months ago, but Lisa had wanted to wait until after Hope was born to plan the wedding. She wanted to walk down the aisle without waddling, as she'd joked. Soon, Lisa promised. After Hope arrives and things settle down, I want Danny to be our ring bearer, and I want your mother there, really there, not just physically present but actually happy for us. She will be, David said confidently. She's already asked if she can help plan it. Apparently she has opinions about flowers. Lisa groaned playfully. Of course she does. They sat together in comfortable silence, David's hand on Lisa's belly, feeling their daughter move. Through the baby monitor, they could hear Danny's soft breathing as he slept. This was Lisa's life now, a beautiful home. A man who loved her unconditionally. A son who was thriving. A daughter on the way, a job where she felt valued and respected, even a difficult mother-in-law who was slowly becoming family. It wasn't perfect. There were still people at work who whispered, still challenges to face, still moments when Lisa felt out of place in David's wealthy world. But none of that mattered as much as this. This quiet evening with her family, this sense of belonging, this knowledge that she'd fought for her place here and won. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was from her old neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who used to watch Danny when Lisa worked nights at the restaurant. Saw your photo in the business section. So proud of you, mija. You earned every bit of your happiness. Lisa showed the text to David. She's right, you know. I did earn it. Yes, you did, David agreed. Every single day you prove that you belong here. Not because of me, but because of who you are. Later that night, as they got ready for bed, Lisa caught her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She looked different than she had 2 years ago. Healthier, less exhausted, happier. But the biggest difference was in her eyes. They held confidence now. Certainty. The knowledge that she could handle whatever came her way. She thought about that rainy night one more time. About being so desperate and tired that she got into a stranger's car by mistake. About fainting and waking up to kindness she hadn't expected. About every difficult moment that had followed. Every challenge she'd faced, every whisper she'd endured. And she thought about Danny's words from earlier. Grandma said, "You're part of our family now, and family means love." Family. She had a family now. A real one. Built not on blood or obligation, but on choice and love, and the courage to keep fighting when things got hard. As Lisa climbed into bed beside David, feeling hope kick against her ribs and hearing Danny's soft breathing through the monitor, she smiled. She'd gotten into the wrong car that rainy night, but somehow it had taken her exactly where she needed to be. And that, Lisa thought as she drifted off to sleep in David's arms, was the most beautiful accident of all.